My sister Joyce and I stood in front of our bedroom mirror. The reflection that stared back at us was that of two skinny kids in our underwear, dreaming about what we would look like as adults. Joyce looked at our flat chests and said, "Just think, one of these days we're going to have boobies." "Well, I won't," I said. "Of course you will. All ladies have boobies." I was incensed. "I'm not going to be a lady when I grow up. I'm a boy." I received a doll for Christmas, and it was identical to the doll that Joyce received. She would clothe her doll in pretty dresses and comb its hair. I gave mine a buzz cut. I was determined that my little boy doll, my little girl doll was going to be a boy. And I prayed that when I woke up in the morning, that I would be a boy too. This morning, I'd like to share my spiritual journey as a transgender person. When I was born, I was named Brenda Ann, a name that means flame of grace. If you would have known me then, you would have known how inaccurate that definition was, because I was a very clumsy and awkward child. As is the case with many children, my father was my hero. He was the best preacher in the world. I would sit in church captivated by his sermons, watching as he paced back and forth on the stage and gesticulating with his arms, and his stories would come to life. I wanted to grow up to be just like him. I wanted to be the one up there giving people words of certainty, black and white. This is the way it is. Believe it or risk eternal damnation. Yes, I would be the best preacher ever. Well, second only to my father. As a young person, I would study the scriptures as part of my Christian education. The ancient poet wrote in Psalm 139, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. Before a word is even on my tongue, you know it completely." Now, these words seem to be a comfort to a lot of people that I knew, but they only scared me. They seemed like a threat. I asked about this concept that God knew all of our innermost thoughts, and I was told, hey, if you keep your thoughts pure, then you have nothing to worry about. Well, my thoughts were far from what I imagined to be pure. After all, I wanted to grow up to be a boy. And what could be more scandalous than that? What would God do if God caught me fantasizing about wearing jeans? Something that the girls in our family were not allowed to do. If God knew my thoughts, I would be in trouble. When I was a teenager, I had a friend named Kevin. We loved to hang out together until one day I was told that I couldn't be friends with Kevin anymore. And I was curious, I was confused. So I asked somebody, what was so bad about Kevin that I shouldn't be his friend anymore? And with all the authority vested in him by our Christian tradition of our youth, he said, well, Kevin's a pervert. The word pervert seemed to slap me in the face. I knew that Kevin was gay, but never acted like a pervert, whatever that was. Knowing what Christians around me thought of Kevin, it made me realize that if I was different from other Christians, then living an authentic life would only cause problems. So I thought that, like Kevin, I would be considered a pervert if anybody knew that my desire was to wake up as a boy. So I determined right then and there that I would just keep my secret to myself. I would just try harder to be a girl. Psalm 139 does not stop with the claim that God knows all of our thoughts. It goes on to say, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day. Well, there it is, in black and white. Even the darkness of my bedroom with the covers over my head wouldn't stop God from stalking me. I was miserable with the thought that I couldn't escape from the judgment of the Almighty. My religion was closing in on me. With every passing year and every acknowledgement that I was not the girl that people thought me to be, I imagined that the lightning bolt of God's wrath was being charged just a little bit more. One of these days, if I didn't get my heart and my mind right, I would regret it. Since my dad was a pastor, it turned out that many of my friends were little old ladies who loved my dimples. Dorothy Cush was one of those ladies, and I loved her like my grandmother. One day when I got my school pictures, my mother suggested I give one to Mrs. Cush. So I hurried over to her house with my picture in hand, and she took it and she just stared at it as if she was looking at an old friend. And ever so quietly she said, "This is the face of Jesus." In the space of 6 words, Mrs. Cush erected a fortress where I could seek safety during many years of doubt and uncertainty about who I was and what that meant for my future. It was like hearing God speak directly to me, saying, "I don't care what anyone says. I know you, and you are not a pervert." The next section of Psalm 139 seemed to take on a different meaning than the first 12 verses. I imagine that if God had been able to relay directly to me the verses 13 through 18, it might have sounded something like this. "Brenda, I created your innermost being. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your frame was not hidden from me when I made you in that secret place, or when I made those secret places. I wove you together. I saw your unformed body. And from that moment on, I wrote all your days in my book of life, before even one of them had come to be. Do not be ashamed of who you are." Brenda, you might not know it yet, but believe me, I know what I'm doing here. Everyone around me in my youth created definitions for my life. Templates of how I was supposed to act and to think and to behave like a good Christian girl. Every time I came, from the time that I came from my mother's womb, expectations were laid out for me in a very strict, limited way. Ultimately, it was up to me to decide if I was going to live into those definitions. When I was in high school, I had an opportunity to become a mascot at a student convention. And as part of the mascot team, I would dress up in this big raccoon costume with this big raccoon head. And I greeted the students as they walked from one competitive event to another on campus. When I was in that costume, I was free to be myself completely. No one could tell what my gender was in that costume, so I strutted around with a swagger. I wiggled my long raccoon tail, and I waved at all the pretty girls and gave the boys high fives. I wouldn't say a word, so there was no apparent gender to cage me in. Isn't it ironic that I had to dress up in a silly costume in order to finally be the real me? I never wanted it to end. But eventually it did end, and I had to put back on my skirts and dresses and pretend to be someone I wasn't. When I reached the age of 18, I had to start making some serious decisions about what kind of adult I was going to be. I didn't know that manhood was even an option for me, so I decided to come out to my family as lesbian. I learned how to drive an 18-wheeler when I was 22, and I set out on a life of travel and adventure. Long ago, I remembered that my friend Kevin had been shoved to the margins because he was gay, which I took to mean that I couldn't serve God as a lesbian. So I left God at my parents' house, and I moved right into a field of wild oats. I put on a strong face in light of all that had happened between God and me, saying I didn't need God anyway. I have always said that I didn't want to be around someone who didn't want me around. But for the life of me, I couldn't understand why God didn't want me around. I lived on the outskirts of religion for the next few years, but eventually I admitted to myself that I so desperately wanted a relationship with God, I would try anything. So I enlisted the help of a place called Love in Action, an ex-gay organization in Memphis, Tennessee. It was supposed to be a 2-year residential program. It was only 2 weeks before I bolted. It was very dramatic. But still desperate to have a relationship with God and to live more authentically, I remember sitting on the couch with a Bible in my hand, insisting that I would not budge until God made it clear to me whom I was allowed to love. Since I was still presenting as female, Christians insisted that I must love men. But my gay friends insisted that I was allowed to love women. I wanted to know what God said. So I sat there and I flipped through the pages stubbornly. I wouldn't stop until I got to the middle of Matthew 22, and I stopped in my tracks. There was my answer. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and all of your soul and all of your mind. I had seen these words my whole life as a pastor's kid, but in that moment I just stared at them. Could this be my answer? Could it be this simple? I realized then that God doesn't base our relationship on what person that I love, but rather what God I love. This realization allowed me to rebuild my relationship with God and to aggressively search for my place in God's will. Now, there are plenty of people who would say that we are not allowed to change our seemingly normal bodies to suit ourselves. After all, God made us a certain way, and we should stay that way. But these same people change their bodies all the time. We dye our hair and go tanning. We get tattoos and piercings to make a statement. We get hair plugs. Well, some people get hair plugs to repair our baldness. We all change our bodies in order to live comfortably or to manage people's perceptions of who we are with a certain look or style. And in a different kind of alteration, consider a pair of twins conjoined in the womb. Would we be so bold as to say that they should stay that way since that's the way God created them? What about an athlete, someone born with the drive and the passion to compete? But what if she's born without a leg? Would we dare to insist that the use of a prosthetic would be a sin against the one who created her without a leg? These are cases where I can't imagine that we would argue against medical intervention. You see, each of us is presented with unique situations that we must decide how to deal with. I would argue that the athlete born without a leg would develop the kind of strength that athletes worldwide would admire. Because we develop strength when we overcome that which would hold us back. And what that is different for each of us. For me, it was to discover who I really was outside of the way that the world would define me. And once I could do that, I could unlock the treasures that lay before me. I could appreciate the way that I intimately understand two genders. I could embark on a future of unfettered purpose, of unrestrained dreams, of fearless authenticity. In her book, Transgender Journeys, Virginia Mollenkott writes, "We who are gender diverse are, like all human beings, complex and unique. To the exasperation of gender traditionalists, we are human beings who are created in the image of God, which makes us intrinsically and eternally loved by our Creator. We are indeed, as the psalmist wrote, fearfully and wonderfully made." In March of 2005, I started my physical transformation from female to male. And I'm here to tell you, it was the best decision I ever made. Puberty is hard when you're young. But puberty at 32 is fantastic. The day I got my first shot of testosterone, I started recording my voice so that I could track the changes that it would make over the next several weeks and months. Every morning I would have my face pressed to the mirror to look for even one facial hair. And then when my voice changed, it sort of took me by surprise because the crack in my voice meant that I couldn't sing for a while. I started losing the hair on my head. Well, actually I didn't lose it. It relocated. It was like a stiff breeze came along and blew it off my head and onto my back. I was finally at peace with God. I was finally at peace with myself. And it was wonderful. But I knew that I couldn't go on hiding my transition from my parents much longer. I knew I would have to tell them the truth, and I agonized over how I would do it. I knew that just when they were getting used to the idea that I would never go straight, I hit them with a bombshell. Mom, Dad, I'm a man. Finally found a way to go straight. The news did not go over very well. The overwhelming emotion that they felt was fear. They thought that their daughter was making the biggest mistake of her life, and they could do nothing to stop her. My mother begged me not to go through with it. She just knew that if I went through with this, I would be mutilating the body that God gave me. She wished that I would just be grateful for the body that God had blessed me with, instead of essentially wanting to ruin it with hormones and unnecessary surgery. Nothing I could say could convince her. It could convince either of them that the daughter that they brought into this world and raised and nurtured and loved could have been so unhappy. My parents couldn't bring themselves to watch me do something that they were convinced would be my destruction. They pulled away because there was suddenly an empty hole where their daughter had been. Now there was this person saying that she was not their daughter, but a son that they never remembered giving birth to. They said it was as if their daughter had died, and no one came to the funeral but them. A couple months after I had started my transition, I called my mother and let her know that I'd be in town and I'd like to pick up my mail from their house. They had not seen me since my body had started to change, and they couldn't bear the thought of seeing what they imagined would certainly be my disfiguration. So my mother said she would put my mail in the mailbox and let me get it in passing. When I pulled up to the mailbox, I stepped out of the car and I retrieved the mail, and then I hesitated. I looked at the house. I felt that longing to be welcomed home. I wanted to capture this picture of their house in my mind in case I was never allowed to return. Just as I was about to get back in my car, the front door opened, and my mother, with tears streaming down her face, ran from the house and down the driveway toward me. Her dignity was abandoned as she flung herself into my arms and wept. "I want my daughter back. Please don't do this." My mother remembers that after I made my departure, she went back inside the house and sobbed for the daughter that she had lost. And as she grieved, she heard a primal, gut-wrenching cry from upstairs. My father, my anchor of strength and stability, lay in a pool of sorrow for his daughter, his little flame of grace, who didn't want to be his daughter anymore. Their hearts were breaking, and they would give anything to have it back. Since that time, we've been rebuilding our relationship within the confines of our new reality. It has taken years of growth and grace from both sides. And we've navigated the complexities of my transition. You know, a shift like this is an opportunity for everyone involved to examine their biases and their motives and their embedded theologies, their understanding of the way things should be. It was important that they embrace me for who I really am. But you know what? It was important that I embrace them for who they really are. Because we were all willing to keep trying, keep working, and keep learning, and keep growing, I'm happy to say that our relationship has flourished under the influence of honesty, integrity, and communication. As I progressed in my transition, the reflection in the mirror started to morph into the reflection that I saw in my mind as a child. My life was given an alignment, and I was unencumbered by the mental and emotional strain that had plagued me for my entire life. I discovered that I was more focused and more determined than ever to live into the destiny that God had designed for my life. Now let me tell you, there is one person that I refused to leave behind as I surged forward in my new life. She was the one that had stuck with me, that had encouraged me, and had pulled me through whenever I wondered if I could ever be my true self. She was my strength, my strategist, my advisor, and her name was Brenda Ann, the flame of grace that I refused to extinguish. Many people, when they go through a major shift in their or transition in their lives, they decided that the person that they were before, the one who got them to where they are, needs to be shoved into a closet, never to see the light of day again. Pictures are burned, conversations are silenced, memories are locked away. And people have many reasons why they do this. But I decided that Brenda and Brent would be going to move into the future together, embracing the experiences that have allowed me to be who I am. I enjoy showing pictures of how I looked before, and talking about my life before my transition, sharing the voice diary that illustrates the drop in my voice. I often approach new challenges in my life by tapping into the strength that Brenda developed in those tumultuous years. And I still smile at that picture that I took to Dorothy Cush when she said, "This is the face of Jesus." regardless of what kind of transitions you experience in your own life. I hope that you will carry with you the person who got you there. God created your innermost being. God already knows who you are, deep down, in the recesses of your being, and God is crazy about you. God is crazy about the real you, the fearless, authentic version of who you are. When I moved to Indianapolis in 2006, I started attending an affirming church. I made some new friends and I joined the choir. And that's where I met my wife, Julie. Although she was raised by a lesbian mother and spent her career working in the LGBT plus community, she had never dated a transgender person before. So she bought a bunch of books and talked to some people that she knew and learned everything she could about the transgender community. Over the years, I thought she might decide that she knew enough and put the books away. But she kept reading and kept learning and kept working to understand the needs of the community that she had grown to love. She knows the stories and the strengths and the statistics, and she imagined how much better life in Indiana would be for transgender people if it had a community center that could empower these folks to live authentically, healthy, and holistic lives. A couple of years ago, that vision got a name, and Gender Nexus was born. This grassroots organization has slowly been growing legs, and I'm proud to announce that Gender Nexus has just found a new home in Indianapolis where they'll be able to launch services in a safe space. My friends, who is it in your life telling you that God can't use you? That God doesn't want you? When God called Jeremiah to be a prophet, he tried to talk God out of it because he was only a child and he didn't know how to speak very well. Society had placed restrictions on who was allowed to serve God. But look at God's response to Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart, appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Do not say I am only a child. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you, and I will rescue you, declares the Lord. In other words, who are you to say whom I can and cannot use? Don't tell me that you can't do something, because when I tell you to do something, it's because you are the best person for that job. Don't be afraid of people who judge you. Don't be afraid of them, because I am with you. You see, when God is making decisions about our value, it doesn't matter how old we are or how well we can speak. Our gender, our race, our checkbook, how many limbs we have, who we love, these things are not important. God only asks if we're willing. God has called each and every one of us to serve in unique and wonderful ways, openly and authentically. Fearless authenticity is hard sometimes. It takes sacrifice. But trying to live as someone you're not is even harder, and it takes even more sacrifice. So give yourself a break. Show us who you really are. And when you do, you'll be showing us